Welcome to a new week of the morning show here at SDH. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by. And it's a standard Monday. Yes, it's Columbus Day for some and for state offices, although it was kind of weird. And I don't know if it's the same where you are, but and this is probably going to be somewhat opening kickoff-ish. But garbage is being picked up today. And I was trying to figure it out, here at Office HD. Morning, Alex. If it was going to happen or not, considering it's a state holiday here in the state of Georgia. And some folks are working, some folks aren't. Things get pushed back. Things don't get pushed back. You kind of forget you need to check if things need to be pushed back, that kind of a thing. And so, as it turns out, after checking out last night, very late last night, that there was going to be garbage pickup today, or at least let's put it this way. On the website that is attached to Office HD's locality, there was no, for a double negative, there was no negative connotation about the garbage pickup. So all of a sudden, you're running around the house. It's like, okay, you got to rush to get everything to the curb. Everything's on the curb. And so nothing's happened yet. So, but no, I was going by what the website said. And sure enough, I'm guessing that there's going to be some kind of garbage pickup today. But happy Columbus Day, happy happy banking holiday, and a reminder that this is also a recognition of Indigenous persons. So, you know how me specifically and how I am when it comes to the Indigenous thoughts here in the North America, anyway. So, happy Monday, happy Columbus Day, happy banking holiday, and may we always remember those that were here long before we were. So, all right. Monday is Monday. It's kind of what it is traditionally. And morning, David. So, with it being what it is, first off, it's opening kickoff time, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are hanging out and watching us and accessing us however you are doing so, large device or small. And you hit that QR code, and then what you do is that gets you into Kickoff Coffee. You start your day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code soccer down here 15 when you use your when you hit the QR code, and then use the code soccer down here 15. It gives you 15% off when you check out. And then they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Abe Gordon is going to be coming up in short order. Abe always bats leadoff. He's our Ricky Henderson on the show. And so Abe is he's going to bat leadoff, and he always slings for the fences. And the only thing missing for Abe is like one of these, So maybe if I took the QR code away, it's like one of these, you swing and you just kind of sit there and you look at it. You got all of it, and you're just kind of getting ready to go around the bases. So Abe's going to bat leadoff, and we're going to talk about whatever's on his mind from the weekend, kind of lead into Atlanta United and the purple team, as this is getting into the final the final regular season weekend of Major League Soccer. So we won't get into senior superlatives yet for Atlanta United, but we'll kind of lean into that a little bit when it comes to Atlanta United, Eastern Conference, Major League Soccer, anything else on Abe's mind. Then we'll get you through the news of the morning, and there is a couple of things specifically AFCON related that some folks go to certain lengths to try to win competitions, and this might be next level, but we'll get into AFCON. And we'll get into the other news of the morning at 10 o'clock. Bart Keeler is going to join us from the Soccer for USPOD. We're going to talk about the men's national team and what happened with the beginning of the Mauricio Pochettino era. And then after that, it's going to be kind of an elongated reffing down here. And what I mean by that is this. There is a concern, I guess we'll phrase it that way for the time being. There's something going on in the college game and with refereeing, and so technically this will be an extension of reffing down here at 10:30, specifically focusing on the college game. And there was an incident this weekend that Jason was front and center to, that we're going to discuss, and it leads itself to a larger discussion about warning signs and stuff that needs to be really adjusted in the college game. So we're going to get into that at 10:30 after Bart. So it's going to be Abe, news of the morning, get you through all of that. Bart at 10, extended reffing down here at 10:30, talking about the college game and just kind of if it's something that you didn't know. We had another incident involving it this weekend, and so it's an issue that we wanted to kind of put out here this morning just to make you aware of it and kind of maybe put up a yellow card or a red flag or something, whatever your favorite color is going to be early in the morning, and we'll talk about that there. So it has to do with reffing down here and the college game. We're going to have that as a longer discussion at 10:30 because there are a couple of pieces of tape that need to be played, and they're extended. They're long versions, but it's worth it. So we'll get into that discussion at 10:30. Okay, so kind of opening kickoffy. There's your QR code once again. Opening kickoff QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Hit that QR code. Use the code soccer down here 15 when you check out. They in turn take 10%, reinvest at youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay, it's that time. We go to Ricky Henderson. Abe Gordon is here. What is up? You got the you got the high Julio Franco kind of batting stance going here. You ready to go?
Man, I used to switch batting stances up year by year.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I would go Ryan Klesko and I'd beat wide open. Sometimes I'd close it up a little more. I kind of was a little bit like Ricky Henderson. I didn't really use my power a ton in Little League and youth ball, but I mean, just know that if I was on first, I may as well have been on third. Like I was going. I mean, I was taking second. And as soon as you overthrow the bag, I'm taking third. So
Yeah,
I was aggressive on the bases.
Mm-hmm. Color me shocked. Nothing like yeah. I was the same way. I was lefty batter, and so I would be like either third, fourth, or fifth in the order. And so I was the kid that actually had the foresight because I don't know if this ever happened to you, but this is very opening kickoffy, by the way. I don't know if when you were in Little League, there was always that team that had the overage kids and they like paid the league off so they could have the overage kids so they could win the league. And so this was like probably, 10, 11, 12, 13. You always had that team that was paying off the league. And then you'd have like the 13, 14, 15-year-old kids that were playing in the U12 and they tried to win the league. So I was the kid that would go to the super fast batting cage knowing that team was coming up and I was going to have a 15-year-old throwing at me. And I would be the only guy on my team to get a hit or much less contact with the ball because I went to the super fast batting cages in preparation. That's how hardcore I was when I was in middle school getting ready to play baseball.
I spent the whole season of Little League just bunting.
What?
Like just bunting.
What?
Like
what?
Just bunting.
Yeah, I heard. I'm like, what?
Just right down the third baseline. I'd reach every time. I was incredibly fast. They would never throw me out. I think I batted like 993 that year.
Wow.
And like I said, like if I'm on first, I may as well be on third. And so I would just take first base on a perfect bunt. I mean, I could put it right between the grass and the foul line. I mean, I put it right on the path. And even when the third baseman knew it was coming, it's too good, man. Just too good.
Wow.
So the speed of the pitcher never really was a problem because I was just bunting one year. So it's all good.
Wow. That is a revelation. I mean, I was a guy that would swing and I'd probably hit like 397 or something. I was never a bunter, but I would always be the first guy to piss folks off. Man, always bunting and batting 993.
I only did it 1 year. The next year I let off the first game with like an over the fence home run. And then everyone was like, why the fuck were you bunting last year? I'm like, yeah, man. I got on base, man. What do you want from me? I got on base.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic. All right. So opening kickoff, other question. How are you when it comes to Mondays? Because this morning I mean, I went to bed after watching that hyper painful American football game last night, where I finally got to see what I need in my fantasy game tonight to try to get a win. Um, and then everything was fine. Watched the wrap up show, but then my body is like up and running at like 5:30 just for no good reason. It's like it's up at like 1:30, 3:30, and 5:30, and it's ready to go on a Monday. Doesn't matter how much sleep you do or don't get. Body's just like, yep, all right, time to go.
It kind of depends on the day. Now, yesterday I had a headache all day from a lack of sleep over the weekend.
Okay.
So like Sunday night, last night, I went to bed pretty early. I took some BioEmblem sleep aid or whatever thing I got there that's got melatonin and magnesium and all sorts of other nonsense. So I popped one of those and I went to bed. I was asleep by like 9:30.
Oh wow.
I pretty much slept all the way through till 7 a.m.
Wow.
And then I kind of just laid there for 10 minutes till my alarm went off. But normally I'm okay because, and I didn't do it this morning because I know I'm going out for a run later today. But normally, like the first thing I do in the morning is like put the harness on Chipper, the pup, and go for a run. So,
Mhm.
like even if I kind of wake up struggling a little bit, like 3 miles kind of gets your body pumping, especially now as we get to, hey, it's 7 a.m. and it's still kind of cold outside. Like that'll wake you up. So I'm pretty good in the mornings. I'm my issue is like the midday. Like I'm the rare like early bird and night owl.
Wow.
That chunk of time between like 2:30 and like 6:30 though, that's the toughest part of the day for me because the sports haven't really started on TV yet. But if I'm into a show, maybe that's how I spend that time. But yeah, that's when I get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's usually about 4:30 or 5 o'clock when I start to kind of fade, and I've got to either push through it or just sit there and not do anything because I know that my productivity would go in the dumper. But yeah, I'm comparing notes on Mondays for everybody in the Twitch pitch and Abe and everybody that comes by this morning. So that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. It is the last week of the regular season in Major League Soccer, and it's math. It's math down here, basically, as we get closer to Friday and Saturday, where Atlanta United goes to Middle Florida, takes on the purple team, and there's got to be some work there that's got to get done. There's some math that's got to get figured out if Atlanta United's going to get in to be the 9 and to go on the road. They could be the 8 if things fall a certain way. Where are you and the conversations that you've had outside of 92.9, just casual and otherwise on social media, where are you when it comes to this weekend? Where are those that you interact with coming into this weekend facing the purple team in the last week of the regular season?
I'll be honest. I'm more worried about Atlanta United getting the own result that's necessary than the other teams. Like, I think if Atlanta United can get the 3 points they need, it will fall to them. Like, they got, obviously it was huge that you're playing for 2 spots and not 1 spot. And so, to me, it's more about Atlanta United and taking care of their own business. And look, last week they did take care of their own business, but there had been 3 or 4 games before that where they had an opportunity to put themselves in better position by handling what was in front of them, not scoreboard watching, and they didn't do it. Now they lucked out because for 3 straight weeks now they've had results for large most part go in their favor. There's been a result here or there that made it slightly different, but 4 or 5 results that same weekend that kind of played in their advantage. And so it's been more about themselves in finding the right opportunity to get points. And they've kind of kicked the can down the road. I know I had called it point procrastination, just kind of stayed alive in terms of their playoff hunt. But it's been more about them not finding their own points than about other teams, hurting them in the playoff race. So I feel pretty good about the other games that we're keeping attention to. But to me, it's about Atlanta United. Like they've got to find a way to get their 3 points. And at that point, if they get in, great. If they don't get in because the other results don't fall their way, you can't look at the other teams and what happened. You had so many opportunities in this last month of mid-September into now here mid and late October. You had opportunities to get points and for whatever reason couldn't do it. So Nobody else to blame but yourselves, and that's kind of the microcosm going into this final game. You've got to do it yourselves. It's kind of, forget you, Joe Boo. I'll do it myself. It's kind of along those lines. Like it's time to just face the facts, look in the mirror, and go find 3 points. And if the one thing that you were looking at potentially result wise was like there was an opportunity that Orlando City would not have anything to play for. Nashville, who was eliminated, couldn't help you out and take points from NYCFC. And so Orlando City, they've got to fight for their seeding and their positioning in the standings. And so they're going to be going after it too. And to an extent that might help you, right? It might open some things up that maybe wouldn't have been open, but obviously there's the other side that they're looking to score and potentially could threaten you.
Yeah, and this could be one where, since both teams are chasing after something, you could have it where the governor has been pulled out of the golf cart and you're going to end up with 90 minutes of like, looking at the U.S. Open and one of these kind of things with volleys back and forth. The way things stand out, everybody's up to 33 matches. We had the 2 matches this past weekend, the makeups. And in the Eastern Conference, Columbus pretty much just wiped the floor with New England. 4-0 the final there, and Matan had a hat trick. Jason has been very, very high on Alexandra Matan. So right now, Miami's locked into the 1. Columbus is locked into the 2. Cincinnati's locked into the 3. So those 3 teams, they can just kind of sit there and do whatever the heck they want when it comes to the last game of the regular season. Miami is chasing after a points record, so their lineup might be a little different than, say, Columbus or Cincinnati coming up this weekend. Orlando, as you say right now, they are in the last home advantage spot. They are right now 2 points clear in the 4. But once again, NYC is going to be breathing down their neck because they're at 50. That's the situation that is staring at Orlando. But then you end up with that trickle down. NYC's at 50. Charlotte's at 48. Red Bull's at 47. So Red Bulls with a win and some help could get to they could get to 6 because they would lose the tiebreaker with NYC because of straight wins, 14-12 at that point. Charlotte could get up to 5. That math is there for that. DC and Montreal and Toronto, who is out because they're done. Philly's at 37. Atlanta's at 37. DC, Montreal at 40. 4 teams, 2 spots. 1 win separating a boatload of folks. Everybody else is out the door, and that's the Eastern Conference. It will be interesting watching, but I think to your point, this could be a game where, if Orlando plays for a point, then they could be boring everybody to tears, but there's a danger in playing for just a point because then that point can turn into 0 points just as quickly.
Yeah, and you kind of lost me pretty early on in running through that, which is, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. And I don't mean to disrespectfully, but that's why I'm just focused on this game. And like, obviously if you're a player, if you're Rob Valentino, you can't even try and look at the permutations and all that stuff. You just got to deal with yourselves. But you're right. The other thing about Orlando City in this one is it also might be like a modified push for points, right? Like, they may try and be like, all right, let's see what we can get in the first 45, maybe the first 60. Yeah. But we do have this other season that we need to approach with the right mindset. Maybe we pull back. And so it also might be a situation where if you can either have a lead into the 60th or 70th minute, maybe even be in position for 1 point that Orlando City kind of pulls off. And they also will be scoreboard watching and seeing what the teams around them will doing. So I don't think Atlanta United can get caught scoreboard watching and seeing how they need to or don't need to change their style of play. Orlando City will, though. And I think there is a situation where they might kind of step off the gas the back third of this match. And if you're in the right position situation for Atlanta United, it may not be to your advantage the first 45 minutes, the first 60 minutes with Orlando pushing, but they might pull off. And so there's also an opportunity that you could play that game, right? Where you play them even, and then as they dial it down and prepare themselves for their own playoff race, maybe you could take advantage in the last 20, 30 minutes. So it's going to be very interesting from that perspective to see how Orlando City does choose to manage this match. There's also, look, they've got to be incredibly careful with any soft tissue, muscle injuries, stuff like that. So calf, groin, hamstring, quad, anything minor that maybe you would see guys try and fight through, that maybe you would risk, something that Atlanta United will have to do, risk those sorts of injuries to get the max points. Orlando City would certainly play a little bit more careful there. They'd certainly rather give up whatever seeding they have than to exacerbate any injuries ahead of the playoffs. So there's certainly some benefits of this situation. But again, it's just about Atlanta United finding the opportunities, and you saw it. And this is what maybe is exciting. But at the same time, John, we haven't seen anything carry over game to game or any sort of momentum or discussion like that. But Atlanta United came out last time with energy right from the start, and they looked really good in the first half. They did not score in the first half, but they looked really good. And you obviously need to get out on the front foot and look aggressive early. Look like you're into the game a little bit. Don't play yourselves into it. Like, be into it when the first whistle goes. I thought they did that very well last week. It showed up in the stats, and eventually in the second half showed up on the scoreboard as well.
So then what are you looking at just from a lineup perspective? I guess, where are your concerns and or questions when it comes to the starting 11? And how would you, if we're playing Football Manager, how would you line things up?
Well, obviously, I think despite what Ronald Hernandez did, you certainly are bringing Brooks Lennon back into the starting lineup. I think that's obvious. I'm probably keeping Mosquera right from the start up on that left side to run with Saba, and then if TRA is good to go, I would run him out there as well and continue. I know Rios has been very good, but I do like the Mosquera TRA dynamic up front. Two guys who are very fast. They can both dribble a little bit, but the speed just has to be contained. And so that's how I would probably start out there. And then you got your regular stuff in the midfield. I mean, I guess there's maybe a discussion what you're doing. I would keep Moyamba on the bench. I think Jay Fortune has been outstanding there, and you run him with Schleich and Moranchuk in the midfield and go about it that way. But there's going to come a time where you have to get reckless in this game. And so I think you have to make your initial 11-man lineup set with the idea that you might have to make these certain switches at some point in the game. And so could you end up seeing TRA and Rios combined up top with this or that? And where does everyone else play into that? Could you eventually go to just three in the back instead of the 4-man back? I mean, there's all sorts of considerations Valentino has to think about ahead of time before you get desperate in real time. And then those adjustments have to be planned as necessary. So it is going to be interesting to see who he has. Like, would it surprise me if Luke Brennan, and I don't even know if he's available after his stop with the youth national team, if he's going to be back, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him off the bench and in a situation where you need a goal late. Like, you just bring Brennan in, you bring Rios in, and you just try and overload and to the detriment of like Steon Gregerson and Derek Williams. You're like, hey, you guys are on your own back there. We're just gonna do what we can and put 8 in the box here pretty much the rest of the game. So it will be interesting to see both from the starting 11, but also from who's available, off the bench and kind of those considerations that you have to consider ahead of time before, and hope you don't actually have to face that situation.
Yeah, no, it's there's a key to being in the rhythm of the game from the absolute beginning, and then getting the advantage, and then trying to sit on it as best you can, but making sure that if the game turns chaotic, that at least you can control your version of the chaos and hopefully turn the other folks chaos into even more chaos with what you can do.
What always concerns me is the other aspect of that, where let's say you do score a first half goal and maybe you are 60 minutes in and you're like, all right, let's go a little bit more defensive. Let's try and hold on to this lead. And maybe you bring in Dax McCarty to try and hold on. Maybe you bring in Luis Abram to try and hold on, and then you give up a goal, right? And then you concede. Like, that's the one thing that's always scared me, is making the defensive substitution, and then you find yourself with all these defensive guys in the game but now you actually have to go find that goal again. And that's the one that always concerns me. So, look, you're going to get nitpicked however it works out if you're Rob Valentino and it doesn't play. I would not make defensive substitutions if you're holding a lead. I would still, play smart, play intelligent, but don't try and shore it up too early. I'm not saying don't make the moves, but
Right.
don't do it in the 65th minute. Don't do it in the 70th minute. If you want to make that move, maybe a little closer to 80, 85, I think you could play that game. But don't give yourself a situation where you've got to find a goal with 15, 20, 25 minutes left and you don't have the subs available to do it.
Because what's better than a 1-goal lead? A 2-goal lead last time.
Yeah. I'll take 4 or 5 if they have it.
Right there with you, brother. All right. So broadcast plans, it's an odd kick at 6:00, apparently.
Yeah.
So do you know the broadcast plans yet?
Yeah, so we're going live as always, an hour before the game. It's going to be myself. I'll be with Joe Patrick on this one. So 5:00 starts the Five Stripes countdown, and as always, we'll have a full reaction to the full-time report after the game. Hopefully, we're talking about who we're matching up with in the first round of the playoffs. But if we have to discuss, that's it for the season. Here's why, here's what happened, and what is this offseason going to look like? We'll have that tough discussion as well, but hopefully we're looking towards the extension of the Atlanta United season. But yes, early game, decision day, all the Eastern Conference games kicking off at 6:00 Eastern, including the one right there at Inter and Co Stadium. Terrible name. That's all right. But we'll have full coverage for you leading up to an hour before kickoff. So we'll be ready. And we might even sneak in a little bit of college football updates just to keep everyone, abreast of the situations across the landscape.
Yeah, DKR, I think the get-in price at DKR this week right now is $361 for some game involving Georgia and Texas. As always, my friend, great to have you bat and lead off with us every single week, and we will catch up with you. Actually, we will be listening to you on the weekend. We'll catch up with you same time next week. Post-mortem one way or the other. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Sounds good, John. Thanks always.
There we go. That's Abe. Abe has smashed the home run, or at least he's bunted, and he's made its way all the way to third. He's going to get ready to be knocked in by the easy single by me batting second here. Always great to catch up with Abe at 929 the game and at Abe Gordon. And Abe is going to go and become properly hydrated, and so he can get in his day work and his road work and all the other kind of work that he does. Okay. All right. So let's say hi to everybody this morning and get you into the news of the day. Morning, Alex. Morning, David. And David, yes. David said he had an exciting day out at GSU and ODU last night. And yes, that is one of the 2 games that we are going to discuss. So David knows the situation that we're going to be discussing in 10:30 and beyond in Reffing Down Here Extended. Morning, Dell. Dell is optimistic about the USA, man. Like I said, we will discuss that specifically with Bart Keeler coming up in a half an hour. And David, yep, they went to VAR at the GSU game to award a PK. Like I said, we'll get into this situation and discuss another incident in the Sun Belt Conference that happened late last month that should be sending off some kind of alarm bell, raised eyebrow, what have you, about the college game. Like I said, we'll get into it. The one thing I am not going to do is, and I did this on purpose, I'm not going to mention officials' names. I'm not. I don't know who they were. I don't want to know who they were. It's a larger issue that we're going to get into around 10:30. Morning, Abby. Yeah, Rod. Well, let's see. So David says Rod Carew, the greatest stance ever. I mean, Rod had the bat back here. The handle of the bat was facing the pitcher. You had Rod Carew. You had Julio Franco. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other good batting stances. I mean, if you liked Rod Carew's, then Pete Rose was kind of an offshoot of that. You had Willie Stargell and Joe Morgan with the timing mechanisms that they had with the elbow drops and making sure that they were ready to go. So Abby's jealous that I got to go see ELO. When the tickets went on tour and I checked the date, I literally had to cross-reference everything. So, yeah, last week was 2 dates with the boss. Lake Street Dive recommended. And that was Thursday at the Eastern. And they finished their 2024 tour with 3 dates at the Eastern. They used to play at Star Bar, which was interesting to hear Rachel say that. And then ELO, when Jeff Lynne said it was going to be done, that's it, we're doing it, and this is it. I was like, yeah, we got to dive in on that. And so literally I was cross-referencing schedules and things like that to see if it could be something that could be done. Great show. Went for like an hour 45 with one toweling off break. And you had like 14 or 15,000 people singing falsetto choruses. It was pretty funny. But no, it was a great concert, great light show. And it was very, very cool to see ELO. And for me, it was kind of a circular moment because it was the New World Record Tour at the Omni was the first concert I ever saw. So years later, seeing Jeff Lynne on his last tour performing ELO music, and it's Jeff Lynne's ELO is how it's being phrased. So seeing that to wrap things up for him, seeing them in 1977 for the first time, very, very cool. Yeah, Dell, a little bit of baseball down here. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and Alex, yeah, Abe got us into the swear jar early. And yeah, Abby, I'm right there with you. I kind of need a nap about 4, but I pushed through. And yeah, Atlanta United should have taken care of business early. Should be a busy offseason per Garth. Abby says she'll be pleasantly surprised if they move forward. Abby and the discussion. Yeah, Wade Boggs did have a stance. Absolutely true. Inter & Co. seems to be okay. So from what we understand, and this was a concern that others had raised on the 280 character app as well, Inter & Co. seems to be okay. Okay. So far, right now, everything's cool. And the stadium in Middle Florida is okie dokie. Let's see. Abby, yeah, he does. Well, he needs not to have the heavy touch. I mean, the ideas are there and you can see them, but the touch is missing, and that's something I think that Edwin needs to work on. Michael, I think, is back from vacation, back on this side of the Atlantic. Good morning, Michael. Morning, Pars. And David, Cecil Cooper of the Brewers. That's a good poll. Abby, major Jewish holiday. Yes, that is true. And she couldn't do ELO. And yeah, Wade Boggs definitely had a stance. So, yeah, bring in your baseball stances. Anybody else that was there on your mind as we kind of got into baseball this morning with Abe as he was batting leadoff and kind of carried the joke a little further. Okay. We'll get into, like I said, we'll get into the numbers with Bart and some of the quotes after the match with Bart when he comes in at the top of the hour. So news of the morning. And this is just flat out odd, but I can't say that when it comes to international competition, I'm surprised. Nigeria players, and this is Chris Bascom at the Guardian, the Telegraph, among other places. So Wilfred Ndidi, who plays at Leicester, claims he and his Nigerian teammates are, quote, being held hostage at a Libyan airport after an AFCON qualifier turned into a diplomatic incident. And this is Bascom's wording. Libya complained that they received poor treatment when the teams met in Nigeria last Friday, where Nigeria won 1-0. So Libya is now being accused of retaliating by sabotaging Nigeria's travel arrangement ahead of the scheduled return match tomorrow night, local time. Nigeria said their charter flight was supposed to land in Benghazi, but was instead diverted by the Libyan government to Al Abrak. I don't know I don't know my Libyan geography, but we'll get into that in a sec. Upon landing, the players said they were prevented from leaving the airport, which is 4 hours away from the original destination, and have been denied food and somewhere to sleep. The Nigerian players took to social media to express their disgust, said they will refuse to play in Tuesday's fixture in protest. Ndidi said, quote, "This is not football, very embarrassing. Hostage to a national team, disgrace." And so there are pictures of the Nigerian squad sleeping in airports and things like that. It's on social media. Victor Osimhen, who is not part of the squad, called on the Confederation to take robust action against Libya for their inhumane, the word that he used, conduct. Osimhen on Instagram, quote, "I'm disappointed by the unfair treatment my brothers and coaches are facing at the Libya airport. Actions like this go against the spirit of sportsmanship. My support is with my team, and I know they'll stay strong despite these obstacles. I call on CAF to intervene as my teammates and officials are still stranded at the airport in Libya. This is uncalled for and inhumane. We stand together stronger than ever. Captain William Troost Ekong called on his country's politicians to help the footballers before announcing the team would finally be leaving the airport after having their plane refueled. Quote, we've called for our Nigerian government to intervene and rescue us. As the captain, together with the team, we've decided that we will not play this game. CAF should look at the report and what is happening here. Even if they decide to allow this kind of behavior, let them have the points. Later posted on X. Power of social media. Apparently, our plane is being fueled as we speak, and we should be leaving to Nigeria shortly. Thanks for everyone's support. I reiterate, we would never treat a guest nation for a game in this way. Mistakes happen, delays happen, but never on purpose. Libya registered their own complaints before the first meeting of the nations in Uyo, Nigeria, last week, although the Nigeria Football Federation denied ill treatment. Libya captain Faisal al-Badri said the team was subjected to numerous delays upon arriving in Nigeria and were denied adequate security. In response, the NFF argued that the Libyan Football Federation had not adequately liaised regarding their changing travel arrangements and arrival times. Quote, the NFF Assistant Director Emmanuel Ayanbunmi said, I spoke to the General Secretary of the LFF at length on Monday, October 7, and he never hinted that his team would be arriving on Tuesday. So, yeah, you got that with AFCON going on, and so that's part and parcel to everything. And then Lee Carsley, remember the discussion that we were getting into with Carsley as to whether or not he applied for the head coaching gig in England? Thought he did. Went public and said, I hope to be coach of the U21s. And so then he just had another bizarre presser. He did not give any clarity over his future, despite claiming the permanent manager should be, quote, a world-class coach who has won trophies, and admitting that that is not yet him. England beat Finland yesterday in Helsinki. Telegraph reported Saturday sources in and around the England setup are convinced he does not want the permanent job, preferring to continue working on his craft at this stage of his coaching career. Carsley told ITV, quote, this job deserves a world-class coach who has won trophies, and I'm still on the path to that. But Carsley then claimed he had definitely not publicly ruled himself out of the running with his comments to ITV and said, quote, like I say, it's important that I do the best that I can. It's a privilege to do this job. I feel well trusted. It's a great job, and whoever gets it will be fully deserving. I tried to make it as clear as I could. Sidebar. It wasn't really clear. Continuing. My remit was for 3 camps. The point I was trying to make is that it's one of the top jobs in the world. I'm not a part of the process, but it deserves a top coach. The players we have available, we've got a real chance of winning. That was the point I was making. This is a world-class job, one that is up there with the best jobs in football, and whoever gets it's going to be of a high level. It's a privilege to do this job. I'm really well trusted. That's why it was so tough to lose the other night. Asked if he wants to be a part of the FA process to appoint a full-time manager once his interim period ends, Carsley said, I speak to the technical director of FA, John McDermott, every day. We spend a lot of time together. I definitely don't think it's something I should be involved with. My role is quite clear, and I've got 2 titles at the minute, interim senior manager and U21 head coach. I'm really lucky with the support I get at the FA from all of the people that work above me. Very lucky with the bosses I've got. I feel well supported and privileged to be in this position to be able to coach the senior team, end quote. He refused to directly answer whether or not he wants the permanent job and asked why he would not. Quote, I'm definitely reluctant because in the past when I've done this caretaker or interim role, I've gone so far down the I don't want the job, I've actually not done the job. It was one of the things I spoke about when I was asked to take temporary charge. It's important that I keep an open mind because in that case, then I'm not being reckless with my decisions. Continuing later, I can definitely understand why you would be frustrated by it, meaning the lack of clarity. Definitely, I can understand that because clarity is what everyone's looking for in the process. My remit was really clear in terms of the 3 camps. I'm not someone that's constantly saying to John McDermott, can I have an update? Can I have an update? Because the job is difficult enough as it currently. So, yeah, I'm quite comfortable in that respect. But, yeah, I can understand why you'd be frustrated. So do you or don't you? And Carsley's like, I got 3 camps. If I'm Lee Carsley and I want the gig and I'm confident enough in myself to have a conversation with myself and go, self, do we want to be in charge of the England national team? Do we want to be in charge of the 3 Lions? I guess this is where we need to bring Jessica Charman into the conversation. If you're confident in yourself, shouldn't you sit there and say, yeah, I want the gig, and I'm going to prove in these 3 camps that I want the gig? If at the end of these 3 camps that I'm part of the discussion, but I don't end up being the guy that they choose, and I'll go back to being the head coach of the U21s, and I'll continue to apply our trade there, and we'll win trophies there. To me, it just seems that Lee Carsley, I don't know if he can't make up his mind, doesn't want to make up his mind, doesn't want to continue, doesn't want to talk about it. But it's like, look, if you're confident in yourself, say it. If you're confident in yourself as a U21, say that. It's like he's saying one side and then he's saying the other side, and then it's like he's saying both things, but then he's saying nothing. If that makes any sense. England beat Finland 3-1, by the way. And so we'll get into math with Bart, and there's some things that we do need to discuss involving the men's national team, like folks that will not be around for the second friendly. And we talked about double points and things like that. We'll have Bart do some math and see if we can figure it out. And it's like you look at what Lee Carsley is saying, and then you're like, mm-hmm. I mean, it is just, ay. And apparently, and you know that everybody's going to be asked about it. Pep Guardiola was asked about it. And so, of course, Pep saying what he says, but not really saying anything. Everybody's like, oh, Pep's interested. Sure. Sure, Pep's interested. He's not going to say he's not. Nah, I don't want it. But Pep Guardiola, when he was asked, he's the equivalent of anything's possible. Matt Law and Jason Burt, by the way, at the Telegraph, add this to the mix. The FA has not yet formally interviewed any of the leading candidates to become the next permanent England manager, more than 2 months after the closing date for applications. What does that say? Prompting questions over the process to appoint Gareth Southgate's permanent successor, which the FA insists is robust, ongoing, and must remain confidential. Yet apparently you've yet to formally interview anyone. FA's not giving any updates on their progress. Telegraph has been told that none of the external favorites have been formally interviewed. Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, Thomas Tuchel, all heavily linked. Manchester City's Pep Guardiola remains a dream long-term candidate, with some believing the FA would be prepared to wait for Pep if he gave it any encouragement. The FA has been accused of dragging their feet. Some candidates have been sounded out either directly or indirectly. Checks have been made on individuals. It's claimed that formal interviews have not yet taken place. The FA closing date for applications was August the 2nd. So then the question is the FA kind of hoping that Carsley will play himself or coach himself into the gig? Because he definitely would be financially viable. No word on whether or not a tenured professorship would help out in bringing in any of the big names or help out in having Carsley secure the gig. Never viewed the permanent job as his to lose, while the FA has never veered from the fact that Carsley's been given 3 international breaks as interim head coach. Source told the Telegraph, quote, "We keep hearing about a process, but what's actually happening? Why has nobody been interviewed? What have the FA been doing for the past 2 months? They will hide behind the fact that it's confidential, but they haven't formally interviewed anybody of any note." The FA believes that in appointing Carsley, they laid out their timeline without having to provide public updates. And now they're questioning the role of John McDermott, the FA technical director. The one that we were talking about where Carsley was sitting there saying, well, I don't have a conversation with John. Go, well, John, am I? John, am I not? So it's chaos with the FA. So the FA has no clue, or they may. If they do have a clue, then they're certainly not letting the rest of us know about the clue that they have when it comes to bringing in a successor. Or are they bringing in a successor? Carsley fears losing focus if he talks about the England gig. Frankly, legitimately, frankly, if I'm asked about it, I'm sitting there, and if I'm confident in myself, I'm sitting there saying, yeah, I'm coaching my ass off because I want my country to succeed. And if it ends up at the end of the day that I'm a part of this discussion and that they view that my body of work is worthy of being considered for the top spot, in addition to all of the other names that have been mentioned publicly or have not been mentioned and have only been mentioned privately within the walls of the FA, I'd like to be a part of that discussion. And I'm hoping that these three camps will make me a part of that discussion. That's what Lee Carsley needs to say here. If he's confident in himself, the best way to accomplish something is bank on yourself. Lee Carsley apparently is maybe hoping that somebody steals the PIN number of somebody else's credit card and he gets to use that going forward. I don't know. But it seems too overly chaotic, and Carsley wants to say things and not say things and not lose focus. Man, the ultimate focus, if you don't want to lose focus, then focus on winning. Sit there and say, yeah, we're going to do our damnedest to represent our country as best we can. And if it ends up at the end of the day that while I'm confident in myself and the abilities of me and my staff to move the England team forward as best we can when it comes to European competition, if at the end of the day the England FA feels that they need to go in a different direction, that ultimately is their choice. But I'm confident in myself and all of our collective abilities here to give the best representation of the Three Lions in international football as we can. I would love to be considered at the end of these three windows for the gig if they feel that I'm worthy. Not hard. Not hard. It is not hard, sir. And basically what Pep Guardiola told Italian television on Che Tempo Che Fa, leaving City, not true, haven't decided yet, and it's not even true that I will be the next England coach. If I had decided, I would say it. I don't know either. Anything can happen. So basically what you have is an entire country running off of that quote on Italian television about interest or not interest or anything of that sort when it comes to the England gig. Joel Matip, by the way, has confirmed his retirement at the age of 33. So let's see. Guardian, Telegraph. Let's see what's going on at the Independent. Yeah, Derek Parkey said it best. It's not coming home. At this rate, it definitely is not coming home. And apparently Jack Grealish revealed a 500-pound bet with Alexander Arnold over an England free kick, and he lost that bet. Gabriel Martinelli, injury concern for Arsenal as they get ready for their trip to Bournemouth. I'm sure that Bart's ears were burning as we were discussing that. Bukayo Saka ruled out of England's match against Finland, so that was a part of the discussion as well. And Ronald Koeman, mad about Van Dijk being banned. Got 2 yellow cards in 3 minutes late in the second half of the Netherlands 1-1 draw with Hungary in the Nations League. And so now you will not call up a replacement for the suspended captain ahead of the vital trip to Germany today, left perplexed by the sending off in the Nations League game. So you have all kind of fun and interesting things that are going on here. Wouldn't be international football if it wasn't. So that's the rundown of everything in European football. We'll go into juice boxes and the other activity after 10:30 as we get you ready for what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, that kind of stuff. But gossip that is there leading into today. Arsenal confident William Saliba will remain at the Emirates despite interest from Real Madrid. Juve could move for Dominic Calvert-Lewin out of contract in the summer. United approached Stuttgart manager Sebastian Hoeneß to replace Erik ten Hag over the summer, but he turned him down. Manchester United still with a chance of recruiting Thomas Tuchel despite him being linked to the England gig. Brazil keeper Ederson says he had an offer to leave Manchester City in the summer. Talks with Pep Guardiola were key to him staying with the Premier League club. Arsenal's Nathan Butler-Oyedeji being tracked by Borussia Mönchengladbach. German center back Marvin Friedrich could leave Borussia Mönchengladbach in January. That's from Florian Plettenberg. Arsenal joined Spurs in the race to sign 22-year-old attacking midfielder Georgi Sudakov from Shakhtar Donetsk. Barcelona, Arsenal, and Newcastle are all interested in signing Leroy Sané from Bayern Munich. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to all of the activity. Yeah. How is he perplexed? Yeah. I don't know. Ropes is asking, how is he perplexed? I don't know. Abby with a public service announcement. Cobb Energy Center tomorrow night, meaning Tuesday. Traffic. So if you don't need to be in that particular area of Dobbins, the Cobb Energy Center, etc., then don't. Tomorrow afternoon and stuff. Yeah, Derek, definitely. It's not coming home. Yeah, I don't know why he's perplexed. So, by the way, before Bart comes in to join us, voting has closed, but we're going to be keeping an eye on our friends at the Football Content Awards, and thanks to everyone who participated in the voting. It is 50% of the vote for the fan side of things, 50% from the judges side of things. For us, as we were running up against all of the other heavyweights around the planet in the best media organization category, organization with an S, broadcaster rights holder category, going up against a lot of heavyweights. Thanks to everybody who voted for us in this process. Dinner time yesterday was the deadline. No word on if they're going to trim the field and announce like finalists, because it was 10 of us, and then the vote was going to determine the 50% part. I don't know if the judges are going to be voting, or they were supposed to have voted in the same time frame, or if they got to look at the numbers from the fan vote and go, ooh, let's take a peek at this and see what's going on there. Morning, Sharif. So thanks to everybody who voted, participated, watched, might have maybe put up a bot or two just to continue voting from different IP addresses. Stack the deck. We cannot thank you enough for getting out your slingshot and grabbing some stones and trying to sit there and look at the rest of the planet, because when you are going up against Prime, ITV, Sky, TalkSport, ESPN FC, our friends at Golasso Network, belated happy birthday, Poppy Miller. When you're going up against all of that, the BBC, it's crazy to think about that kind of stuff. But the public vote finished yesterday at dinner time, and so that 50%'s done. I don't know if we get another 50%. We get to go to finalists before we have to figure out if we're traveling to London or not. As the boss says that if you're a finalist, you're going. Don't know if we're going to get told, or if it's just an announcement that gets made. Hey, on the 20th. Hey, by the way, you're a finalist. Well, it's kind of hard to fly out on the 20th of November for something on the 21st. Anyway, all right, hour number 2. It is 10 o'clock. And so 10 o'clock on a Monday means that we bring in Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD. 2 episodes shy of 100. And Bart, is it true that the Coal Rush uniforms for West Virginia are going to be thrown out with the sofas and just burned at the stake? There he goes.
Um, I saw a tweet from a WVU fan account, very popular one, and I like what they say like all the time, but mentioned that wearing the Cole Rush uniform and putting out that type of performance is not representative of the state.
No.
And as much as I love the state of West Virginia, I have to say, actually, it's kind of very representative. Trying to celebrate Cole and then falling flat on your face is pretty representative of the state of West Virginia.
Oh
Um,
man.
they should move on from coal. Respect all the coal miners. You have a hard and dangerous job, but
Yes.
there are other things to celebrate about the great state of West Virginia, and natural beauty being one of those that, by the way, coal ruins a lot of. But hey, windmills are the problem, not strip mining, where you take off an entire top of a mountain. That's all I
Correct.
know.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. But no, I thought they looked gorgeous.
Falcons won on Sunday, John. That's what I'm focusing on.
Yes.
Tech won at UGA. That's a great win for them. Auburn didn't have to cause your household any internal stress today.
Well,
This
and
weekend.
neither did Florida State, by the way.
You're right. You're right. You got to watch opposing fans,
Oh, yeah.
go through the consternation of being a football fan this weekend.
Yes, it is absolutely true. And we talked about it on the OSG side of things. With the other elements and things that went on, we were all either looking at everybody else and not worrying about our bye week and wondering how we could still be 15th in a conference of 17 schools. But there was a moment, and there was a moment in U.S. soccer where it was officially official. First off, was Q2 even full?
I don't think it was officially full.
Okay.
It was close. They announced the night before the game that they had basically like uh, what they needed 2,000 tickets to be sold.
Wow.
Which is disheartening because Q2 is only a stadium of just over 20,000. So the fact that they weren't able to, attendance. Well, they announced attendance at 20,239. So I guess it was a full house. Congratulations.
Sure, it was.
I
Yeah.
would hope that U.S. Soccer would have been able to sell out the match of its first, the first match of its new head coach, the best, biggest head coach of its history. But oh well. Apparently they did sell out. Good for them. It
Yes.
took them all up until the day of the game.
Yes. So we end up with a win for the United States. And the way that John Arnold et al. Phrased it was this. It was that Pochettino's USMNT passed the vibe check. How long will the good times roll? He says soccer is about physical ability and skill, plus the collective understanding of how best to work together to score goals, keep the other team from scoring on you. But especially at the international level, vibes enter the equation too, whether it's frustration with a certain coach's style of play, anger at recent results, or even national mood spilling into the sporting sphere. What's going on around a team often has a big effect on a team's form, even when it seems superior in the ability and skill sector. That may even be more true in the CONCACAF region, where the depth of any given national team is unlikely to match that of counterparts in UEFA or CONMEBOL. My friends at the World of CONCACAF podcast say that CONCACAF is a vibes-based economy.
CONCACAF is a vibes-based economy. That is a fact.
While hiring Mauricio Pochettino or Jesse Marsh or Javier Aguirre is designed to take advantage of a coach's experience at the highest levels of the club game, they're also intended to change the vibes. No one would argue the vibes were good at the end of Greg Berhalter's tenure leading the U.S. men's national team, and no one will argue they're anything but good one game into the Pochettino era after a 2-0 victory over Panama. What say you, Bart Keeler?
Yeah, I think that for starters, you got to win over Panama, which under the Berhalter tenure was kind of this bugaboo team, right? I mean, Panama beat us in World Cup qualifying down there. They proved to be a problem for us in Gold Cups. Knocked us out of the last of the 2023 Gold Cup. That was a lot of math. beat us obviously in Copa America for, and there are some extenuating circumstances around them. You remember that loss in World Cup qualifying. We had Gyasi Zarda starting, which is a recipe for disaster for anyone. You then lost in that Gold Cup in 2023 because, Panama doesn't have a B squad. They have their A squad, and the U.S. was playing somewhere between a D and a B squad. And then obviously with the Copa America result, it was because you had, a red card by Tim Weah for being, a little dumb. But this was definitely not a first choice lineup from the US, right? Not just with the injuries that we knew of coming into camp, but then the players that were selected were probably not the first choice for a lot of people that would be picking a team, and there are obvious reasons for that. I'm sure we will have a question about. And so the fact that you won is good because that is a reversal from what you've seen in recent history. But also, John apparently saw when watching the broadcast, Panama had scored a goal on the U.S. in at least 5 straight games.
Wow.
And so you got a shutout. And that was a hallmark of the Berhalter tenure. So I was told by his supporters is that, his defensive scheme is very good. We don't give up a whole lot of goals. Again, Panama seemed to be the team that figured out how to. Panama and Canada were the 2 teams that figured out how to score goals against the U.S. consistently. And a lot of that is looking at what we saw the difference between Saturday and what we saw a difference between, the last few games of the Berhalter era was, I think 2 things. One was just an intentionality to the play more frequently.
Okay.
And then I don't want to say intensity because I don't think that's like a fair metric to use. That's a little too vibesy. But you could just tell that there was a understanding of the severity of, hey, I'm playing for the national team. We got to go win. Was it perfect? By no stretch, it was perfect, right? It was. There were errant passes everywhere. There were obviously players who didn't live up to the moment at many times. Some players who, unfortunately, I think failed to capitalize on the opportunity they had from being able to start over players who were injured or being held out due to rest. But overall, the team as a collective got a 2-0 win at home in the first game of the Pochettino era, and that's a positive.
Yunus Musa scores in the 49th. Ricardo Pepi scores at 90+4. So,
that's what Pepi does. He scores in Austin.
Yes, that is true. Just ask. Just
ask. I've seen him score in Austin.
Ask Los Verdes about that too from his time at FCD.
Yeah.
Sealed the victory, ended USA's 4-game winless streak. Player ratings, and this is where we tear apart what Soccer America likes to do on a match-by-match basis. Matt Turner had a 6. Early in the second half, Turner stops Panama's first good chance with a diving save, jumped up to block the close-range shot off the rebound. So Matt Turner with a 6 in net for the United States. Defenders, Anthony Robinson gets a 5. Mark McKenzie gets a 5. Joe Scally gets a 5. Tim Ream gets a 6. Sparked the attack on the first goal with a long ball down the wing to Robinson. Ream and Mark McKenzie blocked several shots by Los Canaleros and mostly distributed safely, although McKenzie gifted Panama a ball deep in the U.S. half and a free kick at the edge of the area in the 87th. McKenzie was beaten to the ball by Edgardo Farinha, who hit wide from 7 yards out. So 5s basically across the board except for Tim Ream, who looks like he sparked an attack. Therefore, he got a +1 there and got a 6.
I think that's a little unfair to Jedi, who did, I think, a much better job in a slightly more advanced role. I know formations aren't a real thing, but it was like an unbalanced 4-3-3, 3-4-3, where like Jedi and Musa were technically in the same plane, but like Musa was a little bit higher than Jedi. Like it was like they were a little bit on a seesaw.
Okay.
But I thought Jedi was better than a 5. I don't think anyone else did anything worth noting from a defensive standpoint. And I think McKenzie is one of those guys who did not take advantage of a chance to put a good foot forward for the manager. I know, again, you get the shutout, but a lot of times he committed fouls or got beat to a ball, and it just wasn't. It continues to be this a story of unfulfilled promise from Mark McKenzie, where you watch him and you go, this guy could be really good, and then when it comes time to actually test him, he kind of doesn't always pass the test, or if he does, it's like at best a C, and that's disappointing when Tim Ream seems to be the most competent center back in your center back pool right now, and he's 87 years old.
Yes. Midfielders, Yunus Musa, Aiden Morris, Gianluca Busio, and Musa gets a 7. I'm guessing because you
He
scored.
did get the goal.
I was going to say, you got the goal, so therefore you get a plus, you get a blue star attached.
I like they called him a midfielder. Okay.
Yeah. Imprecision contributed to the USA's failure to turn possession into scoring threats in the first half. Forged forward more than usual, stormed through the penalty area to finish Pulisic's low cross for the first U.S. goal of the Pochettino era. Yunus Musa gets a 7, I'm guessing, because he scored. Busio got a 5. Aiden Morris got a 6.
Ooh, that's a little harsh for Busio. I would have given both he and Morris a 6. I thought they were both like above average. I thought Morris had some turnovers that were not great. But I think the issue here is, and we'll get to the next guy, is you had Aronson also in this midfield kind of amoeba.
Mhm.
And outside of Musa, right, none of those three guys, Busio, Morris, Aronson, have proven to be a real driver for the U.S. men's national team, right? There are a lot of guys who are really good passengers, right? They might be your shotgun rider, great navigation, might be the backseat rider, great at distributing snacks, but they're not the guy driving you to the destination. And, I think you can trust Musa to get you there, but most of the other guys haven't proven that with the national team, and they didn't prove anything to that extent. But that's not a bad thing. They proved competent, and I think that's kind of the positive is, okay, well, if you add them with a McKenzie, right? Or McKinney, excuse me. If you add them with Wes McKinney, if you add them maybe with Gio Reyna, who comes back healthy, if they're a piece of the midfield, great. But all three of those together, those guys it didn't really work all that well.
Forwards, Josh Sargent, Brendan Aronson, and Christian Pulisic. Pulisic gets a 7. Brendan Aronson gets a 5. Josh Sargent was stripped of the ball when Busio found him at the top of the penalty area. Prime chance came in the 42nd. Busio fed him 8 yards out. Sargent skied the ball over the crossbar. I think it landed at DKR. And Sargent did better with his
that
first.
one may have landed at the race course there, John.
Out by the airport. You ain't kidding, brother. Did better with his first shot of the second half, forcing a save with a 17-yard shot. Our friends at Soccer America, and it was Woitala who authored the piece, gave him a 3.
Oof,
that's like being in the back seat of the car and opening up the cooler and realizing that on the drive that you didn't hit the Ziploc bag correctly, and all the sandwiches, because they were on top of ice, got all mushy. That would be a 3 for me.
Yeah, I don't think a 3 is what he deserved, but I don't think he was close to average. Let's put it that way. I would have put him at a 5 or a 4 maybe, but I think this is the struggle with Josh Sargent, is the dude hasn't scored in like 10 years for the national team, it feels like.
Yeah.
And despite everyone thinking he is the guy who should be starting, I mean, even with Balogun, people are like, well, I don't know, Sargent. He just continues to get chances and doesn't get anything from him, and we've talked about this ad nauseum on my podcast, that strikers need to be more involved with this national team. They don't score enough. They don't get involved enough. He did have 19 total touches, 5 in the penalty area. That's good, right? That's a decent number. But at the end of the day, what are we doing with those opportunities? And when you not only miss your one good chance, but never find yourself in other good chances. I think his next best chance was like a corner kick or a cross at that the goalkeeper punched away, right? He just happened to be close to it. And so, look, strikers rely on service. Strikers rely on other players around them to get them the ball. But it's also your job as a striker to put yourself in better positions to receive the ball and then play the ball off of you. And I think Sargent just continues to not be able to do that for one reason or the other. It doesn't help when the other guy scores, by the way.
No. And I'd love to know who it was in the state of Texas Chamber of Commerce or the city of Austin didn't get together with the schedule makers and have folks understand that when you have a Formula One race the same weekend as Georgia, Texas, that might be great for the economy. But when you're trying to find places to stay and trying to actually function in that town, that ain't the best thing to do.
No, my family tried to go out to Austin this year for the Georgia Texas game, and my parents were even going to RV it. So, not looking at that, but even flights into and out of Austin were crazy. Austin, by the way, talk about a city that needs a revamp of their airport. Airport itself is nice.
Yeah.
It needs to be about 3 times bigger. Good Lord.
Yeah, it does.
I know they're building a new terminal, but holy crap, when Columbus, Ohio has a bigger airport than you do.
Yeah, and Columbus has a better soccer team in Major League Soccer, but that's another discussion entirely. Subs, Tanner Tessman and Christopher Lund got 5s. Haji Wright and Malik Tillman got 6s. Pepe as a sub got a 7. Alex Zendejas got our incomplete because of the lack of minutes. Victory ended a 4-game winless streak, USA's longest since 22, and it went winless for 5, 1 loss and 4 draws. USA had lost their 2 previous games to Panama, 2-1 at last summer's Copa, and in a shootout after a 1-1 draw at the 23 World Cup. That is where we are when it comes to your subs and everybody who played in the 2-0 win.
Yeah. First off, I forgot Zendejas played. Thank you for reminding me of that. I was like, oh yeah, he did. I guess he was technically on the field when the goal scored, so good for him. I think overall, like I said, this was a team that performed slightly better than average. The win itself is just the positive here because, as you just ran through, not only did we have a long losing streak or winless streak, I should say, we've also only won like 1 match since last March, right? Or since this March, right? That the Bolivia match. Okay, great. You beat Bolivia. I don't know.
Yeah, ta-da.
They're not a good soccer team, John. So, when you had lost to Colombia so badly, yes, you tied Brazil. You still didn't win. Sure, you could beat Bolivia, and then, you lose to Panama, Uruguay, Canada, New Zealand. Like, that was a skid you needed to break out of. Now, the problem is, as we turn the page to Mexico, Mexico has their own issues right now. They lost to who'd they play? Sevilla or Valencia or one of those La Liga teams. I think it wasn't playing a first choice lineup.
Right, yeah.
And
they are in fact Bart issues. You are correct.
Yeah. Yeah. They gave up a 2-goal lead and ended up tying 2-2. Not great from LTG.
No.
But for the US, look, you get the win. That is the positive. Because again, you do need the positive reinforcement of the work that Poch put in for this week. That said, if you expected a lot of grand changes and immediate, flips of the switch, that wasn't going to happen because Pochettino and Berhalter are not that far apart. Right? Their coaching style, their playing style, their philosophies about how the game is played. What we did see, I think, is multiple times throughout the match, Pochettino urging the team to just play a little bit quicker and move the ball a little bit better. And that was something that, we had fallen into a lull under the Berhalter tenure in the second, era 2.0 of Berhalter, is the horseshoe pass. It looked very Pineda ballish, right? Where there was a lot of passing with no actual intent to do anything with it. And in this match, you could see Pochettino signaling to try to do something with the ball. Because, that the goal, I don't know if you know this, John, the goal of soccer, the sport, is to put the ball in the opponent's net.
I'll be damned.
That's the whole point, right? Do that more times than they do it to you.
Huh.
And in order to do that, it does help to have the ball on their opponent's half and maybe close to their goal on occasion. So that is, I think, the one thing that I saw a difference of. There was also some more central combo play rather than just get it wide and cross it in, which was another problem with the Berhalter strategy at the end. And so from those two things right there, it did look better. And again, against a team in Panama that had been a problem for this program for a while now.
All right, so ropes with a question. Who had the best luck Saturday? You liked how Busio was playing.
Who had the best look? Pepe, because he scored and Sargent didn't. And now Pepe is going home, which I'm a little upset about.
And that's the next thing I want to get into topic wise, but we'll keep going.
No, I thought Busio, again, I thought all those midfielders, to me, outside of Aronson, proved that they are able to play in the midfield with other players who are better than them. But as a combo, that midfield was not superb. And it's not going to get better on Tuesday. So that's concerning.
Yeah. Abby was surprised to hear about that a player said it was the first time that they'd had a USMNT practice. It was 2 hours in the time that they had been on the national team. And Abby's like, really? They never had a practice. It was 2 hours long?
Well, no. I mean, I think that's kind of maybe 2 hours is probably the most you'll get in a club training session. But like when you get to those national teams, you have to remember you get in on a Monday and you play that Friday or Saturday, right? Sometimes Thursday.
Yeah.
So you don't have a whole lot of actual training time. And you certainly then don't have a whole lot of recovery time. And that's the thing that I think, people don't want to factor in is look, if you think all they're doing is going out there and kicking a ball for 2 hours, which one is not what happens. You're not kicking a ball and doing soccer for 2 hours. You're doing a whole lot of things within the 2 hours on the field, right? From what I also could infer from a lot of these is, yes, it was intense. And yes, there was a lot of training going on during the 2 hour training time. It seemed like Pochettino was also stopping and explaining, maybe not fully, but like pulling players aside and having conversations. So I think it was more of a 2 hour installation session, and 2 hour. How do I also say this? Because all these coaches have their own types of training exercises too, right? And so, I mean, that quote came out on Tuesday, I think, maybe Wednesday.
You're not running around for a full 2 hours, but it is.
That's all I'm saying, right? And you're probably going through the motions and understanding, okay, this training exercise, this is what we want to do. This is what the mechanics of it. This is why we're doing it. This is how it applies in game. So I understand why that quote got a lot of look. 2 hours is a very long time for a training session, especially at the national team level, where your recovery windows are shortened and your actual training availability is shortened. You just don't want to run guys ragged. I don't think we saw that on Saturday, but I'm just saying that the 2 hour thing is a little overblown. I promise you, most teams aren't out there actually training for 2 hours. You can ask. I'm sure you can ask Jason when he goes and watches Atlanta United. Yes, it might be 2 hours, but it's not. You're not playing a full game.
Yeah, you ain't running around for a full 2. You're
doing a lot of, honestly.
Yeah, you're
doing a lot of walking with like funny movements in it.
you're getting instruction.
Yeah,
you're being told, okay, you need to move over. Then you walk over to that spot. There's
your first 10 to 20 minutes are like high knees, like you know what I'm saying? Like it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
we used to play handball as a warm up.
Jason hates it when I mention toe touchies and things like that. But I mean,
listen, dynamic stretching and activations and all these things, they happen on the field. You don't just show up and be like, all right, I'm ready. I mean, like I said, we used to play handball in college half the time as a warm up because it was just like a fun way to like get your body moving, right? And we'd play that for 10 minutes and then start kicking the ball around.
That reminds me, separate sidebar. How has Lenore Ryan navigated Helene? How are things from what you know up campus?
So I know campus and Hickory was mostly fine. They lost power for obvious reasons. But Hickory itself was pretty good. Okay. Now, like every county that touches Catawba to the north and west were not good. I think maybe Alexander County was okay, but probably should have been washed away. But like you had Watauga and Lenore that Watauga and Caldwell that got a little bad. Obviously, Watauga is where Boone is in App State. You talked to Lees McRae up in Avery County, beautiful campus. Shout out to Callie, who's the women's team coach there. She was the assistant coach at LR, and I saw her over the summer for an ODP event.
Yeah, we are, by the way, catching up with Taylor Morton at some point early here in the week to get a Lees McRae update.
Good, because they were much more effective than Hickory. The Asheville campus did open, I think, last week. We have a Asheville campus. We have a office building in Asheville, I think is probably the campus, but that has been reopened. But I don't know what class looks like right now. But Hickory itself has been pretty good. The Helene issues.
Okay, because our friends at Hickory FC, if you are so inclined, they do have a fundraiser going for the 828. And so
Hickory has kind of turned into, to be quite honest, a good dumping point, loading point, maybe, if you will, for a lot of the relief efforts, because it's one, if you don't know, there's an airport in Hickory, and Hickory itself is, again, pretty okay. Again, they lost power, there were trees down, but nothing major for the flooding. The major river that Hickory is on is the Catawba, and it's one dammed at Lake Hickory, and two, it's a big river, so it's not overflowing like a lot of the small streams and creeks and the high country. So Hickory mostly okay.
yeah. Let's see. So I caught up with Mick Giordano. They have relocated to Charlotte, I believe, and so that's where soccer is. The other the other programs on campus are at various other locations, but they have relocated. Others have relocated north to Ferrum and Virginia. So yeah, we're going to catch up with Taylor at Lees McRae, hopefully early part of the week, and we'll get an update with what's going on up there. Okay, so back from the sidebar, we have players who were rostered that are not going to be a part of your double jeopardy game in Mexico coming up this week. Christian Pulisic, who got the assist, returned to AC Milan for what was termed load management. I feel like I need some kind of ominous background reverb there. Fossey, McKinney, Pepe, and Stefan returned to their teams with minor injuries. Pepe was the only player who played against Panama. Say that 10 times fast. No players have been added to the squad, leaving 20 available for Tuesday's match. Horvath, Schulte, Turner, Lund, McKenzie, Ream, Jedi, Miles, Scally, and Trusty at defense. Aronson, Busio, Morris, Musa, Tessman, Tillman in the midfield, and only 4 forwards. Sargent, Vasquez, Haji Wright, and Alex Zendejas.
Which is concerning because where are our wingers? Does that mean that Tillman and Aronson are up for the winger position? Especially, I don't know if I trust Alex Zendejas to start for a national team, let alone start in Mexico. But I do like the idea of Brandon Vasquez starting in Mexico and scoring against Mexico.
You just like irony. That's all.
I like justice.
Okay. Oh, so you have the former Major League Soccer player now playing in Liga MX who could have played for one national team and is playing for the national team that's going to be visiting on tomorrow. So the circular logic that seems to be attached here is the intriguing part of all of this. But you like justice, sir. Okay. All right.
I do. And I think, again, a chance here for some of these guys. I mean, Vasquez has at least done enough to convince me that he belongs in the discussion for the national team. Zendejas has been he needs to start proving himself. It's not enough to just be friends with Christian Pulisic. You do need to start actually performing on the field in order for us to trust you.
Okay. What is your vibe, since this is a vibes-based economy, with your double jeopardy game, your double points match, as you have it registered here in trying to move up the standings in CONCACAF. What is your vibe heading into this match with Mexico?
Well, look, I think the unfortunate reality is U.S. is at a great disadvantage and facing the possibility of losing to Mexico for the first time in a long time, since 2019, I think.
Mhm.
So you don't love that, right? But you also understand all the circumstances around it. So if if you go down to Mexico and you lose, it's not great, right? But you also have a chance to at least get a draw. Mexico's not a very good team. They had a very bad last match against a club team that, again, was not playing
Oh
its
boy.
um,
Oh boy.
and now is the time where, again, you have a new head coach, so you already have the pressure of making yourself known to this new coach, earning that trust of the new coach, and showing that you belong here. On top of that, you have a lot of guys who wouldn't normally be getting opportunities to start, right? I mean, look, Tanner Tessman, Gianluca Busio are not close to the starting pecking order in this national team. But with all the injuries and players who had to go home, now they're looking at being starters. And how do they show up in a game that means a whole lot? I mean, it's the number one rivalry in North America for a number of reasons. And, we have not we don't play on the road often in friendlies. We know this. And now you get a chance to play in Mexico in a friendly for the first time in 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Last time you did it, you won. So if you want to continue to be part of history, and by the way, that time that we went down there and won was not with a strong 11 or a strong squad either. I mean, Breck Shea was probably the best player on the team that that squad, which, Breck Shea, greatest player of all time, I think, in U.S. men's
Jane
national team,
Breckenshea, sir.
right? But it definitely is. It's a good chance to prove that you belong, that you have what it takes to be part of the men's national team, because part of being a part of the men's national team at this point in time is beating Mexico.
Yes. Okay. No, that is not open for a debate. No, I am right there with
They
you.
beat Mexico,
Yes. Yeah, you got to beat Mexico. All right. So, thoughts, plans, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, with the match on Tuesday, sir. Let's see. So, what are you up to Thursday morning?
Well, I'll be in the office working. Sadly.
Rats.
I know.
Come on, man.
But Friday I'm at home. So.
Okay. So then, do you want to come back on? You want to bet lead off on Friday morning
we
and
can
go
do that
99
Friday.
to go,
Yeah,
so
let's
that
do it.
we can put a bow on everything? All right. So this is what we call live scheduling. So Bart is going to look at Mexico, and so Bart's going to come on and bet lead off on Friday morning, leading into Beyond Goals at 9:30, and we'll discuss the vibes-based economy that is attached to the U.S. men's national team, where you have very well drawn photos, pictures of Mauricio Pochettino with the word "believe" underneath it. So,
Yeah. Well, look, that's cool, right? Like, I mean, that I think that speaks to the vibes around the team too. Is there's just a lot of belief now that we have a coach that we believe in.
Vibes-based economy. That's what we're looking.
CONCACAF is a vibes-based economy, and that's the thing, right? The vibes are high for the
Mhm.
U.S. They're not high for Mexico. Ride those vibes. Go get a win down in Mexico. And if you do that, John, you're looking at leaping Canada in the CONCACAF standings. I know we talked about this last week. There's a lot of math involved.
Double jeopardy.
But if you get two wins this friendly window, you're for sure leaping Canada. Like, got to, especially if you win in Mexico, for sure. Leaping them.
Yes.
The other thing is, John, I mean, I don't know if you have talked about it, but real quick, Nations League roundup, if you will let me. I don't know if you talked about CONCACAF Nations League.
Proceed.
But interesting matchups coming up on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
League A, you have the two teams that matter because top two teams qualify for the quarterfinals.
Yes.
League A, Group A, Guatemala on 7 points. Costa Rica, after a draw at Suriname, on 5 points. You know who those two teams play each other on Tuesday. Then in Group B, Jamaica on 7 points, Honduras on 6 points. Those two teams play each other on the final match day. So that is some exciting stuff in the CONCACAF Nations League. Again, those teams that finish top two in the groups make the quarterfinals and will be one of the 4 opponents that the U.S. could possibly be paired with, whether we're ranked 2 or 3, who knows.
And so that for those of you that are the true sickos, you could probably catch all of this stuff on Paramount Plus. We'll get into that.
You can, yes.
See, there you go.
Costa Rica hosts Guatemala, and Jamaica hosts Honduras. So the favorites do get to host in the final match day. Costa Rica, obviously, with the draw and Suriname, probably not ideal. They do have to they do have to win at home against Guatemala to win the group. But I think any result pretty much guarantees them a path forward, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Suriname with 4 points, they would have to. I guess so. Costa Rica, yeah, you're in a little trouble there. You do have to win at home on the final match day to guarantee yourself a spot in the Nations League quarterfinals, because Suriname hosts Guyana.
Guyana's 0-1-2. They've given up 8 goals in 3 matches.
So careful there, Costa Rica. Careful there.
Yeah.
Talk about this program that's kind of spiraled recently.
Well, but I also think that when Keylor Navas is no longer in his mid to late 30s, and he's still a tremendous keeper, but obviously you want to look in other directions when it comes to Costa Rica and how you want to stack things as you age out in your mind. So I think that that would be intriguing. Yes, absolutely. Group B, by the way, Jamaica, Honduras, and you end up with Nicaragua playing French Guiana. So Nicaragua, by the way, at 4 points. If they win, then they go to 7. Jamaica, Honduras in Group B.
Yeah, Nicaragua not out of it, but they do have to win. You're right.
I got some work to do. So
and they have to not just win, but also hope that Jamaica, Honduras tie there.
Yeah, and then if Jamaica, Honduras tie, then Nicaragua's out on goal difference, because right now Honduras is at +4 and Nicaragua is at -1. So for the true sickos, since you mentioned it, I'm going to League C.
Okay, Puerto Rico.
No. Barbados, Bahamas, U.S. Virgin Islands, Belize, Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, St. Kitts and Nevis, Caymans, British Virgin Islands. That's the fun part for me.
Yeah, Barbados running it up. Also, St. Kitts and Belize running it up. Good for them. Those teams, that does matter. They get automatic. Oh crap! I did.
They get promoted.
Automatic placements to the which notepad is this on? Play-in round. I want to say for Gold Cup, because we have a play-in round, a preliminary round, and a group stage for Gold Cup next summer. And we still don't even know if it's all 16 CONCACAF teams, John.
That's true. I'm sure that there'll probably be some guest, probably actually, you know what they'll probably do is they'll probably have Messi and friends be a guest team in CONCACAF.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So we will watch your social medias at Soccer for US POD and at Bartimus Prime 19, especially on Tuesday with the U.S. playing Mexico.
Late night, 10:30 start, John. That is
at the Estadio Akron. Exactly. Yeah. And then you'll be back to bat lead off on Friday morning to talk about all of it in the vibes-based economy that is CONCACAF. Be well, my friend. And we're going to do reffing down here once you clear the decks, because we got, we got some college stuff to talk about. And
I saw Jason bemoaning college refereeing.
Yeah, well, it is stuff to do with that, and we have a couple of incidents to back up the thought, and so we want to advance the game forward, and so we're sending up this flare and proposing an alternative, or at least a suggestion to help things out. So
okay, well, we always like to provide solutions, not just
Yeah, so we're gonna do some solution solving here with reffing down here for this week. Be good, my friend, and I know that you'll be listening. So feel free to have your comments in the Twitch pitch with everybody else as we go through reffing down here for the remainder of the show.
Only one Snide Atlanta United comment today, so I think I did all right.
Yeah. I don't think I didn't hear it either, brother. Don't think I didn't know where it was. I heard it. I heard it kind of buzz past it. No, I saw what was going on. But yeah. So if you wish to multitask and actually try and work and at the same time listen to what we're going to talk about in reffing.
Problem is, John, my work started blocking Twitch on our network, so I can watch you on YouTube. Not on
yeah,
Twitch.
well, you can. Yeah,
YouTube's a little harder for they don't like all the comments that I leave.
Well, but then you could also watch on Twitter and leave comments.
Yeah, well, I'm not logged into Twitter on my work computer either, so
that's okay.
But I am on YouTube, so that's how I watch.
All right, so then watch on YouTube and comment there.
I listen on YouTube.
All right, we'll see you on Friday.
Bye, y'all.
All right, that's Bart. And so Bart is going to listen to this next segment. And it has to do with reffing down here. And it does have to do with a technically, and actually it's two moments in the Sun Belt Conference. One directly involving Jason that he saw on the weekend. And then another from late September. And so what we're going to do for those who missed it, both of these are courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus in the Sun Belt Conference. So yesterday, there was a moment in the Georgia State match with Old Dominion. And it is about 2.5 minutes worth of tape. It's worth it to get the full listen. And this is from the broadcast. And so you might have to picture television because there are some references to video and what can be done here. But I will play this block. And then there's another incident that we need to get into from late September from James Madison and Old Dominion that we need to get into. And it has to do with a couple of different things. So we'll go through both of these moments in both of these situations. So David, so we're going to break this down. So David was there yesterday. He saw it. Jason called it. And so here's what happened late in the match. So first off, Georgia State was down. Georgia State was down 1-0. They came back to take a 2-1 lead with about 2 minutes to go. Then, with about 2 minutes to go in the match, you end up with this incident / moment as it happened once again, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus and the Sun Belt Conference. This is Jason's call from Georgia State and Old Dominion yesterday.
Run over top of the 18, nothing called, couple of deflections, got to get cleared. Nelson tried to clear it. Old Dominion wants a handball. And the referee's going to go look at it. Brooke Nelson was trying to clear it. Tucker was pushed over at the top of the 18 at the start of the entire sequence. You can see Ed Joyce asking, why don't you call the first one? We're getting a look at it now. Nelson tries to clear. It's off the side of Diaz. That is not a handball. The fact that the referee's going to look at it, he didn't call it in live action. That's off of her back. That is not a handball. Replay is not supposed to be used to re-referee situations. He waves it off. You could see it right there in that replay. He waved it off. He gets talked into going to look at it. They don't have our angles as a reminder here in this one. They have what is commonly known as a coaching camera. So you're not going to have the angle we just had. If this gets overturned, because it was not called as a handball on the field, we'll try to give you a little bit of a simulation of what it could look like to the referee. But right now it looks like he's trying to find something in it that's not there. You see the arm go up, and that can fool you. We showed you a very close-up angle, and you can see that it hits her side. Penalty is given. You might want to turn the crowd mics down because I don't want to hear what Ed Joyce has to say about that one. Because I have a feeling I know what he has to say. This team cannot catch a break in 2024. Was a foul on Sania Tucker at the top of the 18 that was not called, and then a handball is given that is not a handball. Rhea Kioski goes to the spot for Old Dominion. 1 minute left on the clock. Kioski versus Foose. Kioski scores 2-2.
Okay, first and foremost, that was the call. Secondarily, I hope Jada Foose didn't hurt her left foot because she kicked the goalpost to the near side after the ball went through. So 2-2 at that point. So what you had was a center ref, and like I told you at the beginning of the show, I purposely left out any reference of the center ref. I did not track down the individual's name. I didn't want to look at the crew because that's not germane to the conversation. The names are not germane to the conversation. The call is, and the activity is. So here's what you had happen. You had no call of a handball live in play. So, and on the ESPN Plus broadcast, they go through and you see that the ball hits the Georgia State player basically under the arm and literally on your lat, the big back muscle that you have, side of the body, the intersection of the right underneath the arm. It did not even touch the left arm. And so it hits the player right there on the edge where the lat hooks around and connects to the front of the body. Then the referee is convinced to look at the incident after calling no call, after waving something off live. Then somehow they are convinced to go and look at the call. And as Jason made the point on the air yesterday, at venue, they have the coach's camera, like the thing that kind of looks like a cell tower. And depending on which model you get, it's anywhere from, say, 12 to 15 feet in the air, and it gives you the really wide all 22 traditionally, depending on the individual and the home team as to how tight it is shot, how far up in the air it is, positioning, and all that kind of stuff. So you had a referee who no-called a handball situation live. They were talked into looking at the play, and you look at it from the coach's cam, the Spideo, the spider cam that they have up top. Then, after looking at the replay from that all 22, and I think I'm 120% certain that the production crew at Georgia State, and by the way, they did a bang-up job in lining everything up as to what was the alleged infraction and all that kind of stuff. They did a really good job of walking through the situation. That was not what was viewed. What was viewed was the all 22 coaches cam. Center ref looks at that, re-referees his own call, sees that it's a penalty, goes to the spot, Old Dominion ties it at 2, and that eventually ends up being a 2-2 draw. Now, I'm going to take you back to September 29th. And it was a game involving Old Dominion and James Madison. Old Dominion and James Madison, with 26 minutes left on the clock, have a stoppage in play. And if I played this entire exchange, it would be about 7 minutes. It is a 7-minute delay, first and foremost, that happened with James Madison and Old Dominion. As the production crew at James Madison is following a throw-in, and as you're watching, picture the monitor in your mind's eye. Activity is going from left to right. Throw-in is paused for something that happened off camera. And it goes to once again review. But the review is once again not off of the television production camera, but off of the Spideo, the coach's cam, the cell tower that you see if you go and watch a college soccer match. So center ref goes and tries to look at the play as it was shot on the coach's camera. After the initial review, center ref wanders over to James Madison because the foul was lined up to be on Old Dominion. And once again, Old Dominion was down 3-2 at this point. They were down 3-0, came back to go to 3-2. 26:03 left on the clock. Clock stops. So after the initial review off of the spider cam, center ref goes over to James Madison's coach and looked like he was about to make his decision. James Madison's coach becomes very, very demonstrative and tells the center ref there's an elbow. And you can see in the ESPN feed that you have the James Madison coaches, and they're looking and they're trying to basically zapruder the whole thing. They're going backward and they're trying to find the moment where they believe the infraction happened. James Madison's coach, literally, as the center ref is walking to him to explain what he thought he saw, the James Madison coach is saying there was an elbow. So after the proposed and presumed initial decision, and the James Madison coach re-emphasizes it was an elbow, and you see the James Madison coach literally wind up and take his elbow backward from the end zone camera on the TV production side, that the center ref goes back to the coach's cam, and then once again, after looking at it for minutes, and the Old Dominion coaching staff comes over and is wondering what's going on, especially after center ref appeared to have made a decision, then is basically convinced to go back by the histrionics of and the motions of the James Madison coach. He goes back to look at the spider cam video, then comes back after being encouraged what to look for, apparently saw what the James Madison coach encouraged him to look for, came out, gave the Old Dominion player a red card. And so Old Dominion, down a goal, is now officially down a player with 26 minutes to go. This is a 7-minute delay in all of this. 7-minute delay. And as I was looking at this yesterday, that was, another incident inside the 18. David, I know I see you looking at stuff in the Twitch pitch, and we'll get to that in just a second. So, short version made longer with James Madison and Old Dominion at James Madison. Infraction off camera from the TV production side. Center ref goes, looks at the spider cam, looked like he didn't see anything, wants to come over to the James Madison coach to explain himself. James Madison coach motions that there was an elbow. Center ref goes back, apparently saw it the second time after being encouraged to look for it by the James Madison coach. Old Dominion player gets a red card, straight red, and then down 3-2 Old Dominion for the final 26 minutes at James Madison is having to fight down a man. The conversation was overheard on the sideline. Savannah Wilkerson is your sideline reporter at James Madison. Here is her breakdown of what the conversation was between the two head coaches during this entire review. So here's what Savannah Wilkerson heard and reported to the booth after all of this discussion happened. Once again, courtesy of our friends at the Sun Belt and ESPN+.
Let's throw it back down to the field. Savannah, what did you see with all of that going on during the review?
So the main reason that Coach Hind was so upset is because Coach Walters is the one who made that call, and she kept saying that you are not a ref. Coach Walters responded by saying that's fine, but the ref just needs to see it. He can make his own decision, but he needs to see it. Coach Hind responded by saying he had already made his decision. That's why she's so upset, and she said it was absolutely ridiculous and not fair and not right.
So that was the play-by-play of Savannah Wilkerson, who was the sideline reporter for James Madison during this coming together for everything involving James Madison and Old Dominion. So once again, let me replay it for you. I'm going to replay what Savannah Wilkerson said in her sideline reporting between the two head coaches. One more time.
Let's throw it back down to the field. Savannah, what did you see with all of that going on during the review?
So the main reason that Coach Hind was so upset is because Coach Walters is the one who made that call, and she kept saying that you are not a ref. Coach Walters responded by saying that's fine, but the ref just needs to see it. He can make his own decision, but he needs to see it. Coach Hind responded by saying he had already made his decision. That's why she's so upset, and she said it was absolutely ridiculous and not fair and not right.
So the ref needs to see it was the convincing element by the James Madison coach. The ref needs to see it. That goes to influence. That goes to re-refereeing and steering and a whole bunch of other things. So with those two instances in the Sun Belt, one back on September 29th and the other one yesterday, David. So David said, did the call handball or the other coming together at the top of the 18? This was after the first incident. This was with about 2 minutes to go in the GSU match. And it was literally let go on the field. Literally David, you don't recall David didn't recall the gesture from the official. It didn't happen. Did not happen live. The element and the incident did not happen live in the GSU game. So what you had in both of these instances is a center ref convinced to re-referee a match. Yesterday at Georgia State, ref didn't call it live, did not call the handball live, and it wasn't a handball, period. It was not a handball. And for those of you that have ESPN Plus, I would recommend going back and literally just go to the last 2 minutes. Well, let's start with 4, because then it's the equalizer, and then you get to see the context. And the incident in James Madison and Old Dominion, I don't know how long replays are up traditionally, but I was still able to go back and access it back on September 29th. The gesture from the field during the live did not happen. So, David, you were there. You didn't see it. You and everybody else. This goes to larger points. Both of these incidents lead to larger points that we wanted to kind of let you know about here. One, it's about re-refereeing. And that should not be in a position, a referee should be confident enough, or at least, if you want to use the word stubborn, they should be locked into the idea of my call is my call, and I will not be convinced otherwise. Doesn't matter who it is unless it's another official. It was not an official in either case that had any that encouraged any re-refereeing. In the Georgia State game, it was called live. There was no handball call. Then convinced to go to a monitor. And then from a camera angle and a rundown, that was, and just angles in general, that were far worse than you could have gotten otherwise. You decide to re-referee a call with a worse camera angle, looking at something off of an iPad in instance number 1. Instance number 2, you have a call or you don't have a call. And the call happened in the ODU James Madison match off camera from the television production perspective. So center ref goes off field. Nothing's happening. There was no call in the initial buildup of the play. It was supposed to be just an ordinary throw in with 26:03 and counting. You get a whistle. Then you end up with a review. Then you believe, and like I said, I'm watching the JMU Old Dominion match over. And you see, literally, it looks like the center ref looks like he has something in mind. And it looks like he's about to go to the JMU coach. Then the JMU coach becomes more elevated in his emotion and with his right arm and elbow, it's like it was an elbow. So then the center ref, after being lobbied by the JMU coach, goes back to the monitor. And I guess he saw something akin to it as he tried to Zapruder the thing. And then you end up with the straight red card for Old Dominion. And this is both of these calls were viewed from the spider cams, from the coach cameras. They were not viewed from the television production aspect of it. In the Georgia State Old Dominion game, GSU's production crew, they were all over it. Absolutely all over it. In James Madison and Old Dominion, the TV crew from James Madison didn't have it. It was off camera. So you're relying on the spider cam, the coach's camera, the All-22, to give you something. So you had in one match worse angles, and you re-refereed something that you didn't call live. In the earlier example, you go to the spider cam because TV didn't have it. You re-referee a call after your initial thought was one thing. Then somehow center ref is talked into going back to look at the tape. Hey, no, you're looking for this. So it was a 7-minute delay in JMU and ODU. And both calls should not have been made. And so David, I think, is going back and shuttling through ESPN Plus as we're looking. So David, clear and obvious. Questions, clearly, but not still made it. First, he thought the ref was going to talk to the fourth, and then he went to the baby monitor. It was a GSU goal with 1:34 to go. PK awarded at a minute left. Frantic and fun last 5 minutes. The behind the goal GSU camera crew certainly had a better angle and clearance off a teammate. So we had two instances of re-refereeing that first and foremost should not happen, period. Referees should be confident in their calls. Don't let anybody in the outside noise that's not wearing the same color jersey that you are force you into thinking something. No one wearing a logo of a participating team should talk you back into looking at something. But that's what happened in JMU and ODU. Someone with a logo talked to a center ref yesterday at Georgia State and was like, hey, you got to look at this. Oh, okay, I think I'll look at it. Like I said, we don't know the thought processes of both of these officiating crews. But the bottom line is the two plays were re-refereed. And you need to be confident in your own calls. And now to my other point. My other point is this. If you have television production cameras at an event, and we know that everything is streamed these days on ESPN Plus or Flow or whatever, make sure, and this should be a mandate, make sure that the review, as it is being looked at by the officiating crew, is the television production crew and that feed and not just the spider cam. I would have both of them available downstairs. And this is the larger point. Other than re-refereeing on the field with human beings. So re-refereeing as human beings, be confident in your own call. Don't let somebody with a logo that's not yours have you go back and look at something. Your call should be your call. The fact in the GSU game that you didn't call something live and got talked into re-refereeing something looking at a monitor that was nowhere close to a handball, and you're looking at it from an angle that wasn't even the best available or the best shot. What should happen in these instances is this, and I would hope that this is something that is looked at going forward, that both video signals are available to that iPad, baby monitor, whatever you want to call it, for center refs for review. So if TV in the Old Dominion James Madison case, they didn't have it. So then you go to Spider Cam to see if it's worth anything, worth any kind of a look. If it's there, then you can take a peek at it. If both of them have it, that you can defer to the television production signal. And all that should be is just running another video cable into that baby monitor and changing your input. Literally, another video cable into the back of that monitor, or have another video HDMI cable available. You can swap it out and sit there and go, okay, you unplug it, plug it back in, have someone from the production crew sit there and get it all squared away, change an input function. That way you got Spider Cam available on one input, TV production available on another. And if it just so happens that communication from the table goes back to the production, the production crew, hey, center ref wants to see this. Then the TV production can send a feed, or in real time as it's being broadcast, if you can't send a separate feed, go back and have them look at what happened. Both video feeds need to be available for refereeing crews. And like I said, with as many games as are being broadcast now these days on streaming services and what have you, I would think that cameras might be easily accessible or easier accessible in these situations. Have both video feeds available. And the other element, as David says, clear and obvious. I'd love to know how in each of these cases the call in the Georgia State game was clear and obvious off of a Spider Cam. And I'd love to know how the call in the James Madison Old Dominion game was clear and obvious off a Spider Cam. And if you don't have clear and obvious, then by the nature of video review, it's left alone. Video review is inconclusive. My call stands. So that's what we wanted to bring to the table this morning. Make sure, and like I said, I don't think you can do anything this year, but I'm fairly certain, being the optimist that I am, down the line, that there will be a moment in a game of import, whether it is in a conference tournament or a national tournament, on some level somewhere, where you will have this kind of a situation. You hope you don't. But in this kind of a situation going forward, I would like to think that you could have just a separate input, just jam a separate input into a monitor, change your input function on the remote control so you can see Spider Cam and television production. And like I said, if it's done live on the air, because you can't route a separate video input to the VAR monitor that would be going out over the air, have the play-by-play announcer sit there and say, hey, center ref has requested that we show our angles of the play. Make sure that is available to the center ref, because that makes it easier to monitor. So it's 2 points that we wanted to bring about here with the college game today. Re-refereeing something live and the clear and obvious nature of VAR and only having the spider cam available to you. If it's not clear and obvious, which unless the person shooting the spider cam is really good at what they're doing, and you can see intentionality, then initial call stands. Leave it alone. Nothing like getting emails while you're doing a show. So that's what we wanted to bring up this morning to wrap up the show. 2 instances of re-refereeing live and the reviews with spider cams that need to be done in a more technically advanced manner. Have both the television production signal available and the spider cam available so you can compare and contrast off of separate inputs. And then if one doesn't have it and the other isn't clear and obvious, play should be left alone. But referees re-refereeing calls live after going to the monitor. Keep all of this in mind going forward. We'll be vigilant about it too. But we need to have both video signal options available in college soccer as best we can. And if it isn't clear and obvious, it's not clear and obvious, it can't be reversed. So the re-refereeing of an idea stops in its tracks right there. So that was a longer version of reffing down here this morning. Just letting you know about things that we're seeing and how things probably should change. But only for the betterment of the game. So, like I said, it just happened. All colleges, they've got it. Like the old Biggie 6 fouls before fouling out rules. I know. I remember that too. But clear and obvious, spider cam, TV production cam availability, and re-refereeing something live. That's what we wanted to get into this morning in the college game. Be confident in your calls, and then let your initial call stand, even if you're not confident in it. And don't let somebody in a logo sit there and say, hey, you got to go look at this because XYZ. Unless that logo is the same color jersey that you are and you're the one with the whistle and the book and the cards, your call is your call. But let the TV production signal be available to the baby monitor off a separate input. And if it has to be a separate monitor that you're running a video cable toward, then so be it. But it should be just as simple as changing an input. Dink, dink. Remote control. Okay. So that was where we wanted to go this morning with that. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Soccer on TV, college soccer for today. High Point and Pitt, ACC Extra, Suffolk and BC on ACC Extra. Newman and LaSalle is on ESPN Plus. Women, BYU and Kansas State. That is at 8 o'clock tonight on ESPN Plus as well. So the soccer on the TV, 3 games in the NWSL. You've got Nations League, all that stuff. Nations League group play on FS2 at noon. Georgia, Albania, Belgium, and France at 2:45. Fox Soccer Plus. Azerbaijan, Slovakia at noon. Ukraine, Czech Republic at 2:45. Nations League play but on Paramount Plus, and that's where the rest of it is. Curacao, Grenada, Puerto Rico, St. Martin at 4. St. Lucia, St. Martin, and St. Martin at St. Martin, but St. Martin. Haiti and Aruba at 8. Jamaica, Honduras, Nicaragua, French Guiana, Trinidad, Tobago, Cuba, all at 9. So that's your rundown of everything to watch today. Thanks for hanging out with us. And I know that we go down roads sometimes that are kind of long and windy, but at the same time, if the game's going to grow and we're all going to continue to enjoy it, reffing down here has to happen as a segment and just as kind of like an introduction. Because if it's something that you might see down the line, you'll go, oh, yeah, I remember this. But probably something toward the postseason this year or next season having a separate video signal available to center refs. Not just the spider cam. Make sure they can see TV production as well. The whole re-refereeing aspect is also well part of it too. But there you go. Thanks to Bart, thanks to Abe, and thanks to all of you. So here's what's going on this week. Tonight on Scarves and Spikes on the Monday edition, I know I'm going to be there, trying to see if we can get Maddie or Jared or anybody else to come and hang out. So that's Scarves and Spikes, Scarves, the letter N, Spikes on the YouTube channel starting at 7 o'clock. Also this week, Tuesday is Tuesday. Wednesday, Tyler Pilgrim does the return visit, 9:15. Hopefully we can catch up with Dylan Butler at 10 and catch up with Marion Crowder. We can catch up with her about her show with Anna Whitty on the USL Super League and the SEC. That's at 10:30. Thursday, it is getting you ready for everything happening on the weekend. 9 o'clock hour is wide open. And it is Nino and Nico in the Power Hour at 10 from 10 to 11:05 and then some. Friday, as you mentioned, Bart Keeler is going to join us to put a wrap on USMNT for the week. He'll be on at 9:05. We catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring at 9:30. Then in the 10 o'clock hour, it's the free-for-all and the weekend whip-around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later, where we catch up with everybody, get you ready for the weekend, and Atlanta United and the Purple Team trying to figure out what playoff positioning is going to be for the 2024 season, because Saturday's decision day for the regular season in Major League Soccer. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Remember, I'm with Scarves and Spikes tonight at 7:10. We'll see if Maddie and Jared or anybody else wants to come and hang out with me and the SNS folks. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Back at it again in a little less than 22. And we'll talk about stuff. And that's the official term. We got a lot of stuff to get into tomorrow. Get you ready for Match Day 34. Talk about stuff in the lower divisions, talk about what's going on in Western North Carolina, all across the board, all the different places. And it's time to wrap it up. And we go here until it's done. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all. That's SDH in the Morning Show for a Monday,